With Mrs. White and Mr. Green now traveling through the servants' passage, they are now safe from the unknown dangers of the manor's hallways. With two of the groups still scattered around the house, we come to Colonel Mustard and Mrs. Peacock, who have placed themselves in the manor's kitchen. Colonel Mustard checks the cupboards while Mrs. Peacock sits on a side stool filing her nails.
Aha! Damn it. Nothing in this one either.
Do you actually think you'll find the culprit in one of them? A child would have trouble fitting, let alone a full-grown man.
You never know, Miss Peacock. I once worked with a midget during the war, and he was one of the best mine-finders I ever worked with. Until the day he got shot down in the field. God rest his soul.
So you're sifting through all these cupboards in hopes of finding a bloodthirsty midget?
Well, you can never be too careful now, can you?
Well, at least make some decent conversation while you're searching, or I would wish I had stayed in the lounge instead.
Alright, let me see. What are your thoughts on Mr. Boddy?
Mrs. Peacock stops filing her nails and stares directly at the Colonel.
What an odd thing to say, Colonel. I thought you'd already knew how devastated I was over my second cousin's death.
I know how you reacted, but what I'm more interested in is the relationship you had before the murder.
He rarely wanted to see me, so I can't say it was an actual relationship. I had only found out about a few months ago that our families had relations with each other, and I most humbly tried to make contact with him. He wanted me out of his life as soon as I had entered it.
So you would say you both disliked one another?
I could tell you that man wasn't the easiest. Wait, are you interrogating me?
What?
Mrs. Peacock bolts up from her stool and squints her eyes.
In the lounge, we started to discuss about the murder of Mr. Boddy. There are only two options, Colonel. It's either one of us or some lunatic running around the house. And the questions you are beginning to ask me are beginning to feel very prodding.
Miss Peacock, I would never blame you for the murder of one of your own family members.
Then let me ask you the same questions, Colonel. What's your relationship with Mr. Boddy?
John was one of my best friends. Despite the different ranks during the war, we always treated one another with respect and dignity. I could never seek to kill him.
I suppose the war was marvelous, but you must have had some disagreement.
Colonel Mustard's face begins to soften into a slight frown.
As a matter of fact, we did. But it was less of a disagreement and more of a tragedy at the front. In the early days of the war, we used to have another friend called Paul Newcomer. We were taking heavy fire during the night, and we had to send a wave of men onto the field, including myself. Paul was shot in the back by accident while we were firing, and the bullet came from John's gun. Mr. Boddy, who had missed his target, and instead mistakenly murdered his best friend.
An eerie silence fills the kitchen, the sound of the rain and howling wind being the only noises. Mrs. Peacock broke the silence.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. You had all the right to ask, and I gave you nothing but the truth. In war, friends die every day. No funeral or burial, just death and gunpowder.
Forgive me, Colonel. Do you smell that?
Yes, I do. It smells awfully foul. It's coming from this champagne bottle.
Mrs. Peacock holds her nose and makes a disgusted expression which shapes her angled features.
I smelled it when we first entered, but it was so subtle I never bothered to mention it until now. The rim of this bottle seems to have some sort of yellowish ring. Rat poison.
Rat poison? Why would anyone put something like that in a champagne bottle?
We might be onto something, Miss Peacock. Quick, help me find the box of the stuff.
The two guests open every kitchen drawer and sift through the plates and goods for any sign of the mysterious rat poison.
Colonel, I see something at the back of the oven. Ew. I guess this dress is ruined enough as it is. Almost. Got it!
Mrs. Peacock pulls out of the sooty oven a blackened cardboard cylinder, half eaten away by the old flames that once cooked their dinner.
Yep, it's the same stuff. Someone most likely poisoned the champagne we drank for dinner tonight.
But if we all drank the same champagne bottle, then shouldn't we all be dead?
Not exactly. All of us drank from the same bottle until it shattered. This must be the second bottle that was brought out, and there's only one person in this group that has ever set foot in this kitchen had access to this poison.
I always knew it! Acting as if she was the quiet maid. Ha! Just wait until we bring this bottle and prove her guilt!